Welcome to the Sonoma County Library's book repair video series. Today, we're going to be working with both glossy pages and uncoated paper pages so that we can learn how to fix cuts in pages. And the other thing that we're going to show you today is we're going to introduce you to Japanese repair tissue. So we'll be doing this in 2 increments. And so first though, we're going to start with cuts, repairing cuts in pages. For this, we're going to need some kind of cutting instrument, your X-Acto knife, a pair of scissors, small or large. We're going to need some kind of transparent tape, which we use Scotch brand here. We also have all these wonderful barcode protectors that we purchased and discovered we couldn't use, and they make a great way of mending pages. The other thing we're going to be using is document repair tape, and we have it in several sizes and styles. And it's just a matter of your preference of what you like to work with. So there's thin, thicker, half-inch. So it's a matter of personal preference. Then when we get into using the Japanese repair tissue, we're going to need a bone folder. Well, we're going to need a bone folder for both. We're going to need some kind of way to wet the Japanese repair tissue, and we could do that with a water pen, or I like to use this these cotton chenille tipped art swabs. An array of brushes. We need some Norbond liquid plastic adhesive. We need a jar of water so that we can keep our brushes in, and then we also need a jar of clean water. Some cotton balls for swabbing up any excess glue or moisture. And with this, we're going to be using tweezers. So in the previous video, we dealt with tears. And it's very important to know the difference between a cut and a tear. So as described before, cuts have clean and clear edges. They often go unnoticed because they just fit together so perfectly. And also, oftentimes it's difficult to see where they begin and end, where edges of tears are ragged, rough. They're composed of tiny little fractures in the fibers of the paper. Often we characterize these as beveled or complex. They fit together like puzzle pieces, so you have to spend some time making sure you get all the little overlaps. But with cuts, like I said, they're clean, they're clear, and unfortunately, unlike tears, you cannot glue them. The only way that you can fix them, and depending upon the type of paper on the pages, is by some type of adhesive, and usually that's a tape product. So we're going to start with one of our discards here, and we're going to cut a bunch of pages, and we're going to show you the variety of options you have for repairing that. Now with cuts, you have to, I'm just going to cut a page. Oh, don't look. So as you can see, you can't even see where that is. I can't see where it is. So often that's why they go unnoticed. So with this, with cuts, unlike tears, generally with tears we only have to repair one side because we're gluing actually the middle of it. But this you can't glue. The only way you can do it is by applying tape. And then when we get into pages on books that aren't glossy, we'll be looking at using Japanese repair tissue. So one of the things you're going to want to do with your cut is you're going to want to assess the book itself. How valuable is this book? Is it a book that's just high circulation and you just want to keep it circling, and then eventually Is it something that's going to be replaced year to year, like a travel book? If it's something that we want to keep in perpetuity, then we might consider a different way of repairing. But for basic, and I would say for the majority of ebooks, kids' books, picture books, the simplest fix is to take Scotch brand transparent tape. One of the things you do have to watch out for is things that call themselves transparent, because they might not actually be transparent. So I'm not even sure where this cut is, so I'm going to have to, okay, there we go. So you always want to make your repair about a 1/2 inch above where the cut is. And you're going to apply your tape, and you can do it in pieces if you can. You know, some people work best with short pieces, some people with long pieces. Again, the choice is to either wrap the piece of tape around, if you're good at that, or by cutting it off carefully with a pair of scissors, or using your X-Acto knife to trim it, or the other thing is to simply wrap it around. Now, with cuts, like I said, because of the nature of them, you always have to repair both sides. So I'm just going to wrap this around, and I have to feel, there it is, and then I'm going to tape. And then the best thing to do is always, whenever you're using tapes of any kind, is to use your bone folder to burnish it in. Now this is great because this tape, you really can't see where the repair is. So if you were flipping through, you can't see it. But now we're going to get into some pages where you may see it. So as you can see with this one that I previously mended, so here is what the Scotch brand transparent tape looks like. And it's okay. So I thought, well, let me see if we can use the document repair tape. And that doesn't look good, so you can see that. There's a cut there. Let's see what a glossy label looks like. Oh, that's a little bit better if you burnish it in there. So what you might want to do is just test out and see what's going to look the best. So I used, on this side, I used all 3 tapes, and this is the Scotch brand transparent tape. I'm trying to find the document repair tape. So you just kind of have to play around. A page like this is going to do well with document repair tape. It's going to do well with the transparent tape. So, and as you remember, we worked with the document repair tape last time. And so I'm just going to cut a piece, show you how to apply it. So that looks fine. You can't even see it. It's a lot thinner than the transparent tape, so you might consider wanting to use that. But don't forget, with cuts, you always have to apply whatever you're using for adhesive on the other side as well, because it'll just, see how it just will come apart. So you have some choices. If it's an inexpensive book, and I just use Scotch tape. If it's a book that, you know, maybe it's an art book and somebody was cutting pages, I'd use the document repair tape. I would consider using the glossy labels as well. Those work good, and you just always want to make sure you burnish in whatever the adhesive is. Now, when we get to books that don't have glossy pages, we still again have several ways of fixing these. For pages that are not glossy, though, we would never use Scotch transparent tape. It is just a horrible way of fixing things, and it turns in time. It is not pH sensitive. It's more difficult to work with. It's just terrible. So what we'd want to use is we'd want to use our document repair tape. And again, starting a little bit above the inception point, working my way down. I'm going to burnish it into the cut. I'm going to do the overhang. This time I'm going to show you how to cut it with scissors, and then we need to do the other side. There we go. Okay. So now I'm going to trim it, and like I said, I could either do it with my scissors or X-Acto knife. So if I grasp it and pull tight, I can just go along the edge. There we go. The other thing you can do is you could cut it on your mat that you use for cutting. You could take scissors and do it. It's not a great cut. So I'm going to do it one more time. Steady as she goes. Okay, so we've repaired that. Well, that wraps it up for how to repair cuts in pages. Our next video, though, is another way of repairing cuts in pages, working with Japanese repair tissue. See you then.